On December 15, 2010, U.S. Border Patrol agent Brian Terry was killed by an AK-47 rifle that was provided under ATF policy Fast and Furious. When asked by Congress who authorized 2,000 guns to cross the Mexican border in Operation Fast and Furious, President Obama asserted executive privilege. President Nixon waived executive privilege to allow an investigation of Watergate. He told the American people he would only claim executive privilege for sensitive matters of foreign policy.
And do you think that the new special prosecutor should be kept from investigating the Ellsberg case?
I have never spoken to Mr. Cox at all. As a matter of fact, however, I did talk to Mr. Peterson about it before Mr. Cox took over. And I told Mr. Peterson that the job that he had, and I would have said the same thing to Mr. Cox, was to investigate the Watergate matter. That national security matters were not matters that should be investigated because there were some very highly sensitive matters involved, not only in Ellsberg, but also another matter so sensitive that even Senator Ervin and Senator Baker have decided that they should not delve further into them. I don't mean by that we're going to throw the cloak of national security over something because we're guilty of something. I'm simply saying that where the national security would be disturbed by having an investigation, the President has the responsibility to protect it, and I'm going to do so.
Eric Holder was held in contempt by the U.S. Congress for failing to turn over 130,000 documents the Department of Justice reviewed in response to a subpoena issued on Fast and Furious. He refuses to this day to disclose his own emails on the basis of executive privilege. Mr. Holder can only claim executive privilege on his emails if, in fact, these emails reflect decisions of President Obama on responding to the Congressional Oversight Committee's subpoenas. Rather than get the facts out to the American people, President Obama was more concerned with his own presidential campaign. He thwarted every attempt to openly discuss the role of his administration in letting guns fall into the hands of Mexican drug cartels under Fast and Furious. He waited 9 months to admit a letter from the Justice Department in February 2011 to Senator Charles Grassley contained false and misleading information to Congress. The House Oversight Committee asked Attorney General Holder to explain why he refuses to produce emails that could show he knew the February letter to Congress was false.
I now would go to the questions of emails. This is the documents you refer to. Most of these documents, 5,000 or so, are in fact emails. Mr. Attorney General, I have a question for you. Not one of these emails, in fact, is yours. Aren't you a prolific emailer?
No.
Don't you email?
Yes.
Do you have a personal email account, and as well as an Attorney General's email account?
I have an email account at the Justice Department, yes.
Do you have a personal email?
Yes.
Do you regularly email to Lanny Brewer, your former partner, and your head of criminal division?
No, I wouldn't say regularly. There are only a limited number of people who know my email address in the Justice Department.
Well, let me cut to the chase. Don't you think it's a little conspicuous in his absence that there's not one email to or from you related to Fast and Furious in any way, shape, or form?
There are a variety of reasons why the emails that we have shared with you are there. We have shared in an unprecedented way email information that no Justice Department, no Attorney General has ever authorized before. You have deliberative information contained, I guess.
But isn't it true that executive privilege does not flow to the Attorney General, only to the Office of the President? So deliberative process within your department, running law enforcement, in fact, doesn't serve executive privilege. As the chairman said going on, you haven't cited any reason that these would not have been delivered.
In making production determinations, we have followed what attorneys general in the past have always used as applicable standards, and these are Republican as well as Democratic attorneys general, and the information that we have provided to you has been responsive, has been, I think, fulsome, and also has been unprecedented.
Obama's excuse is that his Attorney General has done more than others in the past. President Nixon made the same excuse to the American people before winning a second term in 1972.
Is there any limitation on the president, short of impeachment, to compel the production of evidence of a criminal nature?
Is there anything else?
No, that's, I think that would be enough.
No, I was not being facetious, but I realize it's a complicated question. The answer to the first question is that the limitation on the president in almost all fields like this is, of course, the limitation of public opinion and, of course, congressional and other pressures that may arise. As far as executive privilege is concerned in the Watergate matter, and I must say the ITT file and so forth, that this administration has, I think, gone further in terms of waiving executive privilege than any administration in my memory.
President Nixon resigned in disgrace after winning a landslide victory in the 1972 election. The third article of impeachment drafted by the U.S. House of Representatives was specifically for Nixon's refusal to produce documents under subpoena to the U.S. House Committee on the Judiciary. Attorney General Holder testified falsely in stating that he has done more in responding to congressional subpoenas than in the past. When the House Oversight Committee investigated the leak of CIA operative Valerie Plame's name to the press, the Justice Department under President Bush released documents of White House officials and staff, along with the director of the CIA. Only FBI interviews with President Bush and Cheney were withheld under executive privilege. President Clinton's aides, Sidney Blumenthal and Bruce Lindsay, asserted executive privilege to avoid testifying in the Monica Lewinsky criminal investigation by the independent counsel. These men likely knew if Clinton lied when testifying in a deposition that he did not have sex with Monica Lewinsky, the federal court in D.C. ruled that Sidney Blumenthal and Bruce Lindsay must testify on every matter falling outside an official decision by the president. A president's decision to have sex with an intern is not official business of the White House, nor is a president's decision on how he can get reelected. Why would Obama withhold any information to the American people as to how a U.S. Border Patrol agent was shot and killed by a weapon ATF agents could have seized? Here are the facts on Fast and Furious. ATF agents allowed 2,000 guns to escape seizure under federal law. Most of these guns fell into the hands of Mexican drug dealers and burglars on the Arizona border. One of them was used to shoot and kill U.S. Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. The Department of Justice lied to Congress about whether they approved the gun-walking operation Fast and Furious. Patrick Cunningham, the chief of the criminal division in Arizona's U.S. Attorney's Office, invoked the Fifth Amendment when asked to testify before Congress on the operation. Attorney General Eric Holder became the first Attorney General in U.S. history to be held in contempt of Congress for failing to produce documents over a year's time that were relevant to the congressional investigation. Deputy Assistant Attorney General Jason Weinstein resigned in disgrace the day the Inspector General released a report on Fast and Furious. Who is next? Don't we have a right to know before the presidential election? President Obama's abuse of the executive privilege is to keep the Fast and Furious story out of the news. Don't let Obama distract you from the facts. His executive privilege claim is a phony attempt to hide the truth about Fast and Furious from the American people. Hold him accountable on Election Day. New Frontier PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising. This communication is not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Visit newfrontierpac.com for more information.